Guys, I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm not ready to do it now, but I'm good for it. I am going to get you the contact of somebody within the HR department, human resources, at the UFC. And I think that will solve a lot of problems. That way you can email him, you can send him your resume, and you can put in for a position to become a decision maker. It appears that everybody wants to be a general, and nobody wants to be a soldier right now. We have enough generals, we don't have enough soldiers, but there's something where people keep getting off, and I encourage people all of the time. A promoter's license costs $100. You will fill out a form, you will put the date on the top, and you will sign the bottom. If you know so much about the game, by all means, it appears to be a very, very good business right now that only a few people know. There's a whole bunch of channels out there. ESPN's not the only one. There's people all over the place that would love to disrupt ESPN, the worldwide leader. They've been coming after ESPN for years. Please go pitch them your idea. Because very few people know what they're actually talking about. And if you happen to be that one guy, look, it's amazing in life, and we all do this as human beings, right? We forget who we are and what we came from. We forget what our goals were. We ask somebody else to believe in us and give us an opportunity. And when they do and we succeed, we start loading the chamber. And we go out and we succeed again, and we put another round in the chamber. And once that cylinder's full, we then point the gun at them. There's something about that. And I gotta tell you, I don't know a damn thing about it other than observing it. My father, rest his soul. If he was here, right, I fought for 5 world championships. He would take me out behind the barn and tan my hide to this day if he found out I tried to do that to somebody as opposed to showing my loyalty to them. He would do it right now. I don't know where some of these guys came from. But it is the damnedest thing to see. To share a personalized story, and this is out there on YouTube, but the UFC used to do something called a Q&A. And I was the king of the Q&A, and I don't say that to shine up my own wheels. This wasn't a tremendously big deal. I'm bragging about being the king of, but when they used to do Q&As, I'd have like lines of people that were waiting for the doors to open so they could get in, and it was kind of it was just what you would think. I would go onto the stage, same stage where you see the weigh-ins, same exact setup, audience is this way, stage is here, I got a microphone. If I'm doing it, they brought somebody in for every weigh-in. And the few that I did, people would ask a question from the audience. You'd answer the question. Next person would ask a question. That was the show. It would last for an hour. And then the audience would stay. I'd get the heck out of the way. They'd bring a scale in and the fighters would come out and weigh in. It was kind of like a warm-up to the weigh-in so that there was a little something to do there. It was interactive. It provided some content. It was a lot of fun. I went and did one in England. And I was on stage minding my own business. I got a packed house there. Fighters were coming to watch. They thought I was entertaining. I remember Gustafsson came in. I remember being flattered. Alexander Gustafsson had just fought for a world championship. He shows up and sits front row for my Q&A. I remember being flattered. Doing my thing, and whoever was producing it, whoever was in charge, out the right side of the stage, out the left side of the stage, while I'm up there doing my thing, walks Michael Bisping and Conor McGregor. So now it's the three of us on stage. And Bisping was well established, I was well established, but Conor, you could see the writing on the wall. But Conor wasn't quite Conor. And he had done a couple of fights. And don't forget on Conor McGregor, his second fight ever, he was a main event of an undercard versus Max Holloway. His third fight ever, he headlined and sold out a show. So, I mean, the Conor rise, the only one that ever came in quicker than him, but he had some help because of the WWE pass, was Brock. The only one who on day one could sell out an arena and captivate the imagination was Brock. But number 2 to Brock, and I almost pushed Brock aside. I kind of pushed Brock aside because he was such an anomaly. And I kind of believe the fastest rising star ever was Conor. But admittedly, you gotta ignore Brock. So I offer you this because it was young and Conor, and he was very happy to be there on stage. He was very pleasant. He was happy that people knew who he was and they were asking him questions. And somebody asked him a question something along the lines of fighter pay. I'm changing it a little bit, but it had something to do with pay. And Conor stopped him. Conor put his hand up and stopped him. And he said, you don't do it for the money. He said, don't do anything in life for the money. You'll never be happy. Trust me. And he told his own story. And it's a well-known story now, but Conor was working. He was a construction guy, plumbing contractor. His father was I believe, a journeyman plumber in Ireland. And he was going to job sites just to get the money, and he just wasn't happy. So he went into fighting where there was no money, but now he was happy. And I realized that things had changed, but Conor was bringing this up. He was saying, you don't do it for the money. You do it for the accomplishment. You do it for the joy. You do it for the camaraderie. You do it because it makes you happy. You do it because you have a goal, because it's something to aspire to. You do it so that you can be remembered. You can make something of your name. I might be adding a little bit to this now, but I know my theme is very right, and I do know Conor's opening words. I know he stepped away from Bisping, and I stepped in front of us, put his hand up, stopped that question from being finished, and said, you don't do it for the money. And the whole crowd cheered when he said it. And whatever his speech and rant was, and you can still go out and find it on YouTube, he got a big reception for that, and he was speaking to you from the heart. It was from the bottom of his heart when he was saying that. Now, somewhere along the lines, things have changed. I don't know where that is, and I don't even necessarily suggest for you that it is wrong. I will just remind you that if you follow the history of this sport, the guys who set the table, the guys who paved the way, the Hoist Gracies, the Marco Huazes, the Don Frys, the Mark Kerrs, the Mark Colemans, the Kevin Randlemans, the Pedro Hizzos, the Boss Rutens of the world will look back at a guy's guarantee right now and go, my goodness, I was the champion. I never even knew numbers like that would exist. Even if you set the pay aside, as Conor said, set it aside, go back to a wrestler's mentality, to a collegiate athlete's mentality, to an aspiring Olympian's mentality. Had nothing to do with the money, but in all fairness, everybody needs something, and the one thing that you could get, should you make it to the NCAA tournament, should you make it to the Sweet 16, the Final Four, the championship game, the Olympics, you're going to get attention. There's going to be media, there's going to be cameras, and your hard work and your dedication is going to pay off in the way of a pat on the back. And largely, that's why sports are here. That is what they are designed for. That is where 99.5% of the population will be able to reflect back as their time in sports, as a game, as a hobby, as something that was competitive, kept them involved, kept them in shape. 0.03% of the population will be able to do that professionally. Good for you. I don't turn on you. I would just encourage you to remember that's not owed to anybody. And there was a time in this sport when there was no financial reward, not zero. Many other sports have it right now. It's called amateurs, right? The right guys always showed up. The cars were always full. Butts were in the seats. Media was in the front row. Nobody ever had to start opening up a checkbook. It was never meant as a way to coerce you or dangle a carrot to get you to do something. It was done as, here's what's right. We're all going to partner up and we're all going to move forward. The guy that came out with the blowhorn said, I'm going to take all the risk and figure it out. There's going to be something in it for me if my plan goes well. If it's not, you guys come along and believe in the ride, and I'm going to get you something. I mean, it's just a very real thing. I can remember the first, guess it would be my second UFC fight, but it was the first one I participated in after the bonuses had come out. There was some show, and Dana out of nowhere, before the show, gets everyone in the room and goes, I want action. I want you guys staying busy. I want you trying to win fights. Don't forget, first and foremost, we are here to entertain those who have come to us for entertainment, and that's what I want to do. And by the way, and he laid out some kind of criteria. I think there was a submission, I think there was a knockout, and I think there was a fight of the night. I think that was there on day one, but there was a number of criteria that you could go out and win a bonus. So that was done on a show, and this was not a thing. So I remember being in the back room. I'm going to fight Trevor Prangley at the Hard Rock Casino. It was called The Joint on like a Wednesday night on like Fuel TV or some off-brand channel where everybody's trying to do the best they can. And one of the Dana gets done, the meeting's over, we're all getting ready to to walk out the door. And one of the fighters goes, "Hey, what about that bonus thing you did for these other guys?" And Dana goes, "Yeah, you want to do a bonus thing? Like, oh, did that work? Did that incentivize? That was my goal. Okay, you guys want to do it? Let's do it." And he has nothing. He's got nothing to write down. He gave his cell phone to an assistant. He doesn't even have a cell phone. So he grabs a scrap piece of paper and finds either a pen or a pencil, and he goes, let's write this down. And he writes it. It was $7,500. He's like, "What should it be for?" "Okay, for knockout." "Okay, great. Another $7,500. What should that be for?" And you get the fight of the night and the submission, but he writes the whole thing down and goes, "Boom, we've got a deal," and everybody walks out. People could not have walked out happier. They could not have walked out with more an incentive. They could not have shown up the next night to put it all on the line. And that was $7,500. That's a lot of money. And by the way, not only did you have an opportunity to win, my purse that night, by example, was 3 and 3. 3 to show, 3 to win. I did win. I end up with $1,500 less than if somebody got a bonus. I mean, it's very real money. It's my only point. Right now, there is no backroom negotiation. There is no grab a piece of paper and try to write this thing down because somebody brought it up. There is a built-in 100% every show, $200,000 in bonuses, split up 4 different ways. I'm only offering for you, if you need these things dangled in front of you, you've got the right. Everybody ticks on something. That's okay. Money can be as good of a motivator as anything, but you are missing the history. You are missing how we got here. You are disrespecting, intentionally or not, guys like Royce Gracie, guys like Dan Severn, guys like Tank Abbott, who not only did this to help get the sport where it was, they did it because they enjoyed it. They did it because they had a skill set, they worked really hard, and there were some cameras there that would show it around the world. They could get a pat on the back. They did it to make for a better world and a better belief for the next generation of fighters. They did it without commissions. They did it without weigh-ins. I've heard some fighters say, "I've been here for 10 years and I've fought 20 times. That's really awesome. I would not turn on that guy. Royce Gracie fought 4 men in one night. Was outweighed by every damn one of them. Didn't have gloves, didn't have tape, didn't have a commission, didn't have all the medicals and all the wonderful things now that many of us think are a nuisance that make the sport real and put it in a better place. I'll just offer you that has to mean something to you. And there's a lot of guys right now that have that same mentality of Royce, of Dan Severn, that will look at what's the minimum pay. $10,000 to show up, $10,000 to win, absolute minimum. $50,000 potential bonus no matter where you sit on the card. Just don't swear into the microphone if you're on live TV. Did you guys know that? It's actually a rule. If you're on pay-per-view, let her rip. If you're on live TV, do not curse. If you curse, your susceptibility to a bonus goes away. Okay. I mean, pretty straightforward. They're sitting at home right now. They're working just as hard as everybody that's on TV and broke in and has been given their opportunity. They're fighting at the dog track, the YMCA. They're making calls, calling a buddy to make a buddy on their behalf, trying to get in and trying to get their name out there. They would take those deals now and they would be thrilled to have it. And you do not work a damn bit harder than they do. You're just rewarded significantly different. And whether you mean to do this or not, you are disrespecting them. And they didn't do anything wrong. You run your career, you run your life how you want. You are not going to do better numbers than Usman versus Burns. I'm telling you right now, you're not. So think that over. You get your own house in order. There is a negotiation. There is a back and forth. There is stemming opportunities. But nothing will trump the window of your athletic career, which every day and every second is closing, including the 10 minutes it spent you to watch this video.